I'm calling him Sebastian, like the pony that he rides. Little Sebastian, if you know, you know. But he's just like the little pony that could. I love him. I do love all the disguises.
Horses, Dana, they're dangerous at both ends and crafty in the middle.
I know they are. It's true.
You gotta watch out for them. Hello and welcome to Steam Powered Movies. My name is Mike. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm here with the other host, Dana.
I am the other host. My name is Dana Fraedrich. I am an author. I am a podcaster. I am an educator. I am a maker of many things. I am a burgeoning mushroom farmer.
Oh, okay.
If you already knew this, if you are on my newsletter. If you're not, you're late to the party, the mushroom party.
Or if you live in this house,
That's
you
true.
already knew.
Look, I hope there's no one living in this house that we don't know about.
Well,
surprise!
Well, there's maybe a mouse. There's some spiders.
There are a lot of spiders.
A couple other creepy crawlies.
I find way too many spiders in this house, and honestly, I feel like something needs to be done.
I'm just glad that our house is not burned to the ground and still standing.
Funny you should say that, because that was going to be precisely what I suggested. We burn the house to the ground, show we mean business. Done and done.
It would show the spiders, but also be quite inconvenient for us.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're here to talk about another movie, because that's what we do here. Steam Power Movies. We watch a steampunk movie and then we talk about it.
Indeed. And
this time we watched the sequel to last month's movie.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows.
Yes.
Which came out 2 years after the first one in the year 2011. But before we talk about that, first, just a couple quick announcements. If you want to follow Dana's going-ons this month, you can see her in person at the Mississippi Book Festival, September 14th in Jackson, Mississippi, at Geekcraft Indianapolis, September 21st and 22nd in Indianapolis, Indiana, or Bookmarks Festival, September 28th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
I'm basically not going to be home the entire month of September.
Yeah, I'm not going to see you.
It's true. I love
we're doing
you.
this ahead of time. We're getting this recorded.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to chat with us or recommend a movie for a future, hit us up in the Discord. There's a link to our Discord in the description of this podcast, so say hi to us there. So, Dana, second Sherlock Holmes movie.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on this one going in, or initially? What you got?
Okay, so I have some really strong feelings going in, just because I remember the first time I saw this, and I was angry kind of from the get-go.
Oh, okay. Not a good start.
And then I just sort of carried that anger with me through the entire film, and I experienced much the same thing this time.
Interesting.
Because I'm going to say, I know we said it last month, but Irene Adler got done so dirty.
Yeah.
I'm really upset about it.
Yeah, she did.
She deserves so much better. I don't like what these movies have done with her. It makes me really frustrated. And then of course, they immediately had another female replacement.
Yeah.
In the form of Sim, our Romani / traveler character.
Yeah, played by Noomi Rapace.
Yeah, and it really frustrates me. I like so much about these movies, but that's one overarching thing that I'm just you could have done better.
I kind of have two thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm.
In the first, basically, spoilers, the first 5 minutes, Irene Adler's character gets killed off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that her portrayal in that first 5 minutes of this movie was actually better than the whole entire first movie. She's a bit stronger. She's a bit more in control.
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock's not rescuing her. They do sort of a reverse on that trope in the beginning where he's like, I'm coming to rescue you. These people are following you. She's actually like, no, they're protecting me and they're now going to beat you up. So kind of a good reversal, kind of a good thing for her character to be strong and in control. And it's Moriarty is the one that defeats her because he's the criminal mastermind. So in that way, I feel like her character was done better, even though only on screen for 5 minutes, and then seems like they didn't know what to do with her and they just killed her off. But it's also sort of a bit of a mercy because her character was not done very well the whole entire first movie. So I didn't want to see another movie of her being portrayed poorly. So okay that she got killed off and they can't ruin it more. I don't know.
I understand where you're coming from. I do have a question though.
Okay.
As we established in last month's episode, this is the incredibly rare instance where you have actually read the books and I have not.
Yes.
So in the books, does she die?
I don't think so. But also I don't remember. This is the part where I say it's been a while since I've read them.
Uh-huh.
So I don't remember very well. It definitely doesn't stick in my mind as a thing that happened. So I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, so fair dues.
And we do no research for this. So
I had actually meant to read at least some of the short stories. Like I didn't think I was going to get to all of them, but it didn't happen. I meant to, and then I just basically forgot. But okay, so it is one of those things where, and I know I'm being a purist. I know how this sounds, but like, I feel like you need to stick to your source material at least a little bit better, because this just felt very like I don't know, like it just felt like she got done really dirty for this. I don't like it. So anyway, but that's basically it. Like I just sort of carried that with me the entire movie, and I do think it affected my enjoyment of this a little bit. Like I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. Like I enjoy this film. I don't think I enjoy it quite as much as the first one. I think it's just a little bit less of a romp. However, they do a couple of things where it did bring me great joy.
let me go back to you real quick. I did a quick search.
Okay.
My memory is correct. She doesn't die in the books. She is reportedly to be beheaded or killed in some way. I think it's beheading.
Mm-hmm.
But Sherlock actually does save her and stages her death.
Mm-hmm.
So her death is faked, but she lives in the books.
I'm not gonna lie, like even though Rachel McAdams is not my favorite actor ever, so we've talked, I can't remember if we talked on the episode last time or not, but we've talked at least between ourselves that they are making a third one of these, and it's currently in pre-production, so like who knows when it's going to be out. But like I actually kind of hope for the third one that they bring her back somehow.
Yeah, they could. They never really show her dying. They show her collapsing.
Yeah.
There's probably some way they could retcon that.
I mean, again, she's so clever. And that's kind of why I was angry. It's just like, she's so smart. Like, and she was smart enough to ask for like a fresh pot of tea. Like, clearly she doesn't trust Moriarty, but like,
doesn't trust anybody.
I just have trouble just swallowing this idea that she was like, yep, that's cool. I'm fine now.
Yeah.
I do kind of hope they bring her back for the third one, but that's, ifs and ands and pots and pans.
And in the books also, Sherlock never refers to her by name, only as the woman.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
And in his mind, she is like the only woman that ever captures his interest at all. And so she's referred to as the woman.
I mean, Sherlock is just a very interesting character in this way because he's just so intelligent in a very specific way that he is basically like a little bit separate from the rest of humanity.
Barely functions as a member of society.
Yeah, essentially, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see that, just like, she's kind of the only one who can match wits with him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But we should move on with other things in this film.
Sure. Yeah. You were going to say something you liked that happened?
Oh, are you ready?
Yeah.
Stephen Fry. I adore Stephen Fry so much. He's such a good actor. Every time I see him in something, I just get overjoyed.
I feel like with this movie, he had a character in mind and he just used it to portray Mycroft. Like I don't think he really tried to be the character of Mycroft. I feel like he used the name Mycroft to create his own character that he had fun with.
I do aspire to his level of sass when like Watson tries to shake his hand and he's just like, no, just no, like no explanation given, just no. Like that is my dream to be able to pull off.
I mean, his character is very aloof and he does stick to his very specific routines and doesn't go out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why in this they made him a nudist.
Okay.
Or an exhibitionist of some sort within his house.
I genuinely think somehow in like Mycroft's thinking, he is like cognizantly aware that human clothing, when you don't need it for basically not dying from the elements, it's a bit of a human construct. So inside his own house, where he is protected from the elements, like he doesn't need it.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's Stephen Fry's invention is my take.
I just love him. And he's actually in a bunch of stuff. He's basically like in everything queer that comes out. So he was in like Red, White, and Royal Blue. He was the voice in Heartstopper. I just love him so much. It just makes me so happy.
Stephen Fry is great. He is a worldwide treasure.
He is. It's true. Actually, let me take back something I said earlier.
Okay.
Like the first quarter of this movie is a really fun romp.
Okay.
In the same way that the first one is. But then like there's a very clear mood shift, which I think is fitting because it's kind of one of those things like every time you have like a sequel, you kind of have to raise the stakes.
Right.
And so it makes sense. But that's actually the reason why I don't like the later iterations of a lot of franchises is because it usually gets like a bit darker and then a bit darker and then a bit darker.
Yeah.
But I did like in the beginning when we had like Watson's stag do and whatnot, which I will say, I don't think he has any room to complain. Like he knew what Sherlock was like when he asked him to be his best man.
Oh yeah, that was a mistake. Having Sherlock be the best man and plan the stag party.
Yeah.
Total mistake.
Like you did this to yourself, mate.
Yeah.
Which I have a question for you. I was thinking about this when, Watson like rolls up in like sort of a drunken sleep, covered in a coat in his motor carriage, so to speak. Just dirty, like still bloodstained from the fight.
Right.
If you had been in that state the morning of our wedding, would you have still walked down the aisle?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, look at you. So like immediate.
Yeah. No, I would have pulled it off.
Okay.
Yeah. Somehow.
Okay. All right. I won't pursue this here.
Okay. Although at the time there was very little chance of that happening.
No, that's true. Yeah, you're not generally in circumstances like that.
No, very unlikely for that to have happened. No, I do agree that like the stag party part was fun. The shenanigans there, and Watson getting to gamble and get in a fist fight. And you get the idea that he enjoyed all of that. Like he had a good time.
Yeah. But the look of abject terror when he wakes up in front of the church was so good.
He was like, no, let me keep sleeping.
Yeah.
Rough night.
Yeah. And there's just a lot. I do feel a bit bad for some of the characters in this because Sherlock is just such a loose cannon. Like Mrs. Hudson deserves a pay rise. I think we can all agree.
Oh, yeah.
Poor Gladstone. That sweet, sweet dog. Poor baby.
He's so resilient, though.
Oh, my gosh. Bless him.
Keeps coming back. I want to say about Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Sherlock in this version. I feel like especially the first half of the movie, he went like extra crazy. I know they were trying to portray him as like gone a little crazy. They had the red string on the wall, which equals crazy.
Mike, did you not hear about his diet? He was on a diet of coffee and formaldehyde, something else, and like coca leaves. Don't do drugs, kids. Yeah,
I feel like he went like full Jack Sparrow in the beginning of this movie. He was a little extra, and really felt like he was channeling like Jack Sparrow or Keith Richards.
Watson did call him on this. He said he was manic verging on psychotic.
Yeah. No, he did. I don't know. I just kind of didn't vibe with that too much.
Mike, don't be a dingy bird.
Wow.
That's like my favorite line of the entire film.
That's a good one. Let's talk about maybe the most interesting thing that happens in the middle of the film.
Okay. What are you talking about?
I feel like half of this movie was just bait for that Tumblr audience you were talking about last episode.
Who were like just shipping Watson and Sherlock the entire time.
The whole train scene.
I love it.
Was just all Tumblr bait.
I love it. Yeah.
Come lie with me, Watson.
Lie down with me. Tell me that the folks who are writing this are not trawling Tumblr feeds.
Oh, no.
And I will show you a liar.
No, they absolutely did. I feel like they were like short on ideas and they were like, oh, let's see what the fans want and let's mess with them.
I don't think they were short on ideas. I think they started where they should have.
Or maybe that was one of their ideas, was to just do something that would get the fans riled up.
Yeah. I will say there was a funny moment in that, which I love that whole scene, the entire train scene where like he's dressed in a disguise and he even admits it's not his best disguise. And all of the disguises in this just make my heart so happy.
I mean, they're bad on purpose, but they're like just enough.
He was in a hurry.
He's always in a hurry. Yeah,
that's very true. But
no,
he's
good. He's good at like makeshift disguises. That's one of the things about Sherlock. He's like can whip up a disguise very quickly.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But no, he has a line where he is talking about his his outfit, but also some of the stuff that he was pulling to try and foil the assassin's plot. And he says it's by design, but the way he delivers it, it sounds like a slogan. And what just popped in my head was like the Maybelline slogan of like, maybe she's born with it. But then I was like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's by design, which I really think they need to adopt. I think that has a much stronger vibe.
Well, you know, maybe for the next movie, there will be some strong product placement and they can go with that. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't like that, but it would be kind of funny. Sherlock was right about one thing, even in his manic state. As far as honeymoon destinations, Paris, better than Brighton.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Really?
I've been to Brighton.
Yeah?
I've never been to Paris, admittedly.
Actually, me either.
I've been to Honfleur. But I think Brighton is lovely. It's a fun place. I think it depends on what kind of honeymoon you want, to be honest.
Maybe.
Like, if you love bread, go to Paris.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but if you like a seaside, go to Brighton.
Well, there is no seaside in Paris. That's correct.
Exactly.
It's a landlocked city.
Yeah.
So.
You guys didn't know that you'd be getting travel advice today, did you? You're welcome.
Or geography lessons.
Yeah. Okay, I have questions for you.
Okay. Hit me with questions.
What, again, you having read the books, what is your thoughts on the sort of dynamic between Moriarty and Sherlock, with Moriarty being like, you know, his greatest nemesis, basically?
Yeah.
What did you think about this?
Well, I didn't think that it was extremely satisfying. I think one of the things that was good about Moriarty in the short stories and the books and stuff is that he was very much in the background and in the shadows. Like, with all the episodes of the smaller mysteries, right? You had the whole mystery played out, and then maybe there's some part of it that's like, oh, it's connected to Moriarty somehow, but it was a self-contained story, right? And then maybe a couple of stories later be like, oh, it's this guy Moriarty that's behind all of this. It's hard to do that in one movie, which they tried to do here. Well, they hinted at him in the first movie, but this one, they try to like shove all of that backstory into like the first half of the movie, and it's hard to show how Sherlock and Moriarty like interacted without interacting in a short period of time. That's one thing that I feel like the BBC TV series did a better job of, because they had more episodes to work with. They had more time. They could have a whole adventure and then like hint at Moriarty or tie it to him somehow. So then by the time you actually meet Moriarty, there's like this sense of gravitas. There's this history. Whereas with this, it kind of happens all at once. He kind of instantly becomes his nemesis. I don't feel like they really have enough time to build up Moriarty into the giant figure that he is in the stories. So that's kind of a tough thing for me. I feel like the ending is really well done, and the thing where they match wits playing chess and doing even to the point where they're not even touching the pieces anymore. They're just shouting the moves at each other, which I would love to get like a real chess player's reaction to this. Like, I watch movies with poker scenes and I'm like, oh, well, that's not realistic, or that's terrible. That would never happen. Like, I want to know what like the chess players say about the chess game in this movie.
I've heard of people playing chess by correspondence in this way, but I'm not a chess player, so I don't know like how easy it is just to be like boop boop boop, but like envisioning the games in your mind, because I think by correspondence generally like both players will have a chessboard set up that they can look at. So I don't know. I mean, both these dudes are geniuses.
Oh, I'm sure that people that smart could do it in their head. I just want to know if the moves actually make sense.
Oh, I don't know.
Like, if you were to plot them on a chessboard, would it actually make sense, or would it just be gibberish?
Great question. I don't know. So I have a couple other Moriarty things.
Okay.
So, because obviously he's a huge part of this film. He's just like behind kind of all the action.
Villain.
Yeah. So
he's kind of the only villain. See, that's the thing. There's not really like a figurehead villain that he stands behind. He just is the guy that's orchestrating everything.
Right. Here's what I kind of don't get. Because like in the BBC version, like, yes, Moriarty is kind of running his crime syndicate and whatnot. And yes, money, you want wealth and power and blah, blah, blah. That's basic. But with the Moriarty in the BBC version, Andrew Scott does just crazy really well. Like, he is also an agent of chaos, and very clearly in that version, he loves the chaos. Like you can just see the insanity in his eyes. It just lights up like a fire. Whereas like in here, I kind of like, what's the point? Like he says that like, I want to sell the bullets and the bandages. So like, okay, yeah, you want money, but like he's so smart. He could make so much money in so many different ways, but like I didn't really get like agent of chaos from him. Like this just felt like you're being evil to be evil, which is never my favorite. Like
yeah,
because Sherlock does the thing with the handwriting analysis thing, which is total garbage, by the way.
Yeah. Totally worthless.
And what does it say? It says like basically he's like morally bankrupt or like morally insane or something like that. For me, that's not a good enough reason. Like you can say, oh, they're like morally insane. It's like that's not a real thing. Like if we need to make some kind of clinical diagnosis, that's like a different thing. And so like
to me,
it didn't do it for me. I'm like, what is your actual motivation?
Yeah, to me, the character Moriarty, he would bristle at being called like amoral or like Sherlock said by his handwriting, just pure evil. Like he sees himself as calculated, and trying to gain power and wealth and all these things. I think one of the problems with this film is that where he ends up, the thing about just owning all the bullets and bandages, you don't have to do crimes to do that.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I mean. Is like there are easier ways to insane wealth.
Right. I mean, and then that is being evil, but that's not necessarily criminal. I guess he did crimes to acquire the money to buy all those things. But they don't really get time to set all that up, to show you that. You just kind of get told, oh yeah, he did a bunch of stuff in shadowy ways to buy all these things and these companies.
Right. Because like when we think about like truly like just over the edge villains, like you think about what is it, the Christian Bale Batman and Joker dynamic, and Morgan Freeman's character, he mentions in there that like some men just want to see the world burn, which like that matches with like that Joker's character. Like he just enjoys hurting people and he enjoys the chaos, which like I said, like I don't see Moriarty, like he has such creative ways to kill people, and sometimes he uses them, but sometimes he just like very quietly assassinates people. And that goes along with the calculatedness, but like I don't understand some of like the theatricality of it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I think you're right, because like to me, the impression I got from the books and stuff is not pure agent of chaos. It's not Andrew Scott in the BBC version,
which is he's brilliant. Love him.
He is great, but that's a different character. That's a different version of that character. To me, it's more just someone who likes being a puppeteer and likes operating in the shadows, but is also like a gentleman. Is sort of more an opposite Mycroft in that sense, that he's like very gentleman and like in high society and blends in with those types of people, but behind the scenes is doing a bunch of pulling the strings of crime groups and smaller crime bosses that they all report back to him. And he doesn't really get his hands dirty, and that's how he stays off the radar. But Sherlock is on to him, and that's Sherlock's thing, is like trying to pin him down and figure out how he's doing all this stuff, and bring him out into the light, so people can see how he really is.
Okay, I mean, it didn't vibe with me. Like I have holes to poke in his character. But also two more things about him.
Sure.
One positive, one like merp. So the merp part, as of the end of this film, his like second in command sharpshooter guy still at large.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, they may have held on to that for the next one or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
Also, I will say the sort of like not a fight scene at the end, I do think was such a good choice. It was really refreshing and really smart, because we've had a lot of action in this film, but at the end of the day, like these are two very intellectual men.
Yeah.
And I do think that this was the right choice for these two's their ending, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that too. It's a departure from the book, because in the book, it's just they end up having a tussle on a path that's snowy and icy over top the falls, and in the tussle they both fall over.
Okay.
Like it's not this grand calculated thing, but I do like how they do it in the movie here, where he, comes to the conclusion like, oh, I'm injured, so I can't actually beat him. So the only way to win is for us both to lose.
But he always has a contingency plan, Sherlock. Like, and I do like that. I do feel like they set up all of his stuff really, really well. So
yeah, anything that they quick cut to that's like a little prop or like, oh, what's this oxygen thing? Like, oh, yep, that's going to be useful later.
Yeah. So I'm really, I did like a lot of this. I know I've kind of like dragged on big chunks of this film, but I do actually really like it. Like I'm calling him Sebastian, like the pony that he rides. Little Sebastian, if you know, you know. But just like, he's just like the little pony that could. I love him. So that was a really fun part. I do love all
horses,
the disguises.
Dana, they're dangerous at both ends and crafty in the middle.
I know they are. It's true.
Gotta watch out for them.
I tend to agree with Sherlock, actually. Like, horseback riding is an activity that does scare me a little bit.
You see, I'm actually less scared around a horse when I'm on one.
Yeah?
Than when I'm just like standing near one.
That's fair, because like the back legs, dangerous.
They are dangerous at both ends.
The head, dangerous.
Yeah.
If you've ever been bitten by a horse, and I have.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
It was a baby. His name was Romeo, and he was playing, but like they do like a little nip, but like a little horse nip on human flesh is painful.
I can imagine. Probably
so,
is. Yeah.
it was on my arm, but like, Romeo, we are not friends.
Yeah, I think the middle was kind of blah of this movie. Obviously foreshadowing World War I.
Yeah,
big time, bringing the Germans and Nazis into it as the bad guys, which is classic. Just make the Germans the bad guys,
I mean, there have been a lot of films that kind of do this, and I get it. Like, I'm sure that like all of that forecast was sort of on the horizon and whatnot. I do find it interesting, sort of the timing of this though, because Queen Victoria was kind of marrying off all of her children as she had them, and I think she had like 9 children. Just royal families all around Europe. So like by the time World War I hit, they were all basically related. Which was why it was kind of like a big dang deal when no one else in Europe would take in the Romanovs, because I think he was like the cousin to the king or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just kind of like a wild situation if you like start to dig down into the history of it. They were all cousins.
Yeah. And let's go back to the history in a minute. But yeah, I was thinking in the middle part of the movie, I feel like it was a little bit less clever than the first film. We talked about the first one where there's like all these little mini episodes where like these clever things happen and then you get an explanation from Sherlock and you saw the clever things he did. I feel like this one, there's a bit less explaining and a lot of just like quick cutting to little things, and then you sort of have to piece it together. And there's a lot more reliance on like a flashy style of camera work and stuff. Like the scene where they're running through the forest. That was actually what I remembered from this movie from the first time we watched it. Was like, I remember that they run through the forest in slow motion. And that was kind of that kind of over stylized fight scenes and battle scenes, I feel like took over the whole middle part of the movie because there wasn't a whole lot going on story-wise.
I actually meant to ask you about that because I was thinking about you when we were watching that, because it is visually very interesting. And I know that you are very into like camera work and just kind of all those visual effects and stuff. So I was curious, like kind of what your thought on was that. Like I thought it was really interesting. I did think it dragged on a little long.
Yeah. I thought it dragged on, and I thought it was kind of cover for what was actually happening was not that interesting. So they like ramped up the visual style. Yeah.
Because I think you're right. I think the middle does sag a bit. Like it's a lot of running and action and boom, boom, fight, bang, bang.
And I said, like, less clever at least. Things are happening.
Yeah.
But it is a bit less clever, I feel like, than the first one.
Yeah, I feel like so like the first one, I think it really shines because like we're finding clues, we're doing the investigation, we are envisioning like how all the pieces come together. And this one, I feel like there was a long period where like it wasn't really like clues, it was more just like, oh, yep, Moriarty is just as evil as we thought. Look at this,
Right.
look at this thing we found.
Yeah. Dana, I have a couple questions for you.
Go on.
First question. This is an actual quote from Dana while we were watching the film. I know the difference between a blood stain and a wine stain.
I do.
Explain.
Well, first of all, when blood dries, it oxidizes and turns brown. Wine will remain that like dark red color.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
See, people, you learn stuff here.
It's true.
The other question is, where would you place this film in the timeline? Because we pretty strongly place the first one, 1886 to 1890
Yes.
kind of period. What about this one? We had motor carriages. We had the World War I on the horizon kind of stuff. It's a little bit later because Watson and Mary are getting married. Like, how much time do you think has passed? Where do you think we are in the timeline?
Well, Mike, if you paid attention at the very beginning, Watson told us the actual year.
Oh, dang it.
It's 1891, according to Watson's opening.
Okay, so not that much in the
No,
future.
because I had that thought too, because like I don't think they've had a 5-year engagement. I think we were just a little bit early in our assessment of the first one. I think it must have been like 1890 when the other one happened, and we just didn't realize it. I want to say though, in regards to the time frame, I was very disappointed. Now, I didn't actually talk much about the clothing in the first one, but there's so much I like about it. Like we have bustles. Oh my gosh, yes. So many hats. Fabulous. The ladies all have their hair up when they're out, as they should.
Yeah, how would Mary do swimming in that outfit when she got tossed into the river
I thought
or
about
the
that.
lake or
so
whatever?
like you've got a petticoat beneath. Usually it's made of horsehair or something similar that will absorb water and will get very heavy.
That's what I thought, yeah. She's got a strong doggy paddle.
Yeah, she's got a very strong doggy paddle. I mean, she had I don't know if you noticed, like her skirt was kind of ballooning behind her.
Yep, I did see
in
that.
the water. Like, I don't think she could have sustained swimming for a super long time.
Right.
But I mean, Mycroft was right there, like right at the right time.
I mean,
so,
Sherlock timed it perfectly.
Yeah, he made a very, very important point about that, like several times over.
Yep.
So there's so much I love about the outfits. They're fabulous, but you have to know that right around the 1890s, we're starting to get these insanely enormous sleeves. Like they're crazy big.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really see a lot of those huge sleeves. And I honestly was expecting it on Mary's wedding dress, because if there's going to be a time that you're showing off, it's going to be at your own wedding. And she didn't have it. Like, granted, that dress is probably borrowed. Like, we in this day and age, like, we buy new clothing way more often than they did back then. Now, granted, there's a whole theory about how the Victorians might have kind of started fast fashion, but we don't have time for that right now.
Oh, okay.
Bernadette Banner has a video on it, and I fully recommend it.
Google that.
But anyway, we didn't have the really big sleeves. Now, at the end, Mary did have bishop sleeves, which I'm obsessed with.
Oh, is that a chest reference, baby?
It's not a chest reference. No, bishop sleeves are literally
But like, did they choose that outfit for the movie to be a chest reference?
No, I think it's because it was a style in that.
Well, I mean, there
period.
were other styles, but they chose that one.
Well, also because bishop sleeve look so good.
Okay.
They look so good. I want a top with bishop sleeves. I haven't gotten there yet.
All right.
So, but yeah, so like, I love so much. I even think that they repeated one of Irene Adler's dresses, because I'm pretty sure the dress she wears with that like red and blue bustle at the beginning, I think she had that same dress in the first one, which does check out, because they wouldn't have just been like replacing their clothes all the time. She would have been re-wearing stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was the same outfit that she was in at one point in the first movie.
So I do really like that. But I was just disappointed. Like, I want to see those big old sleeves. They're so crazy.
Yeah. Were there any other like steampunky elements to this movie that were not in the first one?
I mean, we had another
of?
secret passage. Love a secret passage.
Well,
I know. I will say that until the day I die. I love a secret passage. But I wrote down several. So like I said, the camouflage is peak. Like these camouflage outfits that he made for himself. I love them. That's so fun and creative.
It was fun.
And what was my other one? I've got notes. Notes.
Get those notes.
Yeah.
What's in the notes?
I mean, and of course we had like the gear kind of gearbox bomb situations.
True. We did have some gears.
We had a lot of
that.
blow darts in this.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting new little thing. Like, granted, that's not so much steampunk.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that they were like, let's do something different.
Yeah.
But the boards under the Cossack's clothes to catch thrown knives.
Yeah.
That was really cool and clever. I
It
did
was
quite
clever.
like that.
It actually kind of made me think in the beginning that maybe Numi Rapace's character was in league with him, and that's why she threw the knives at the board specifically. But I guess he was just wearing it as like
I think
armor.
they were over his vital organs. I assume, over the
maybe.
heart. Maybe like, I don't know where your liver is. I'm looking at, I don't know, liver and kidneys somewhere in here.
Somewhere in the torso
I
area.
assume that was over that. I don't know. Something like that, though.
Maybe. Okay. So he was just wearing general wooden armor to protect against knives.
I thought that was just like really clever.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
And he was a parkour expert.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've been
all over
doing
the
a lot
place.
of parkour research for the current book I'm working on. So, because I was definitely thinking parkour.
The last movie opened with parkour. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
It's a
Yeah.
big thing in these.
Uh-huh.
Maybe the director just had some friends that are stunt guys that are like, let me do some parkour in the movie.
Honestly, parkour looks extremely cool.
Oh yeah.
There's a video I'm going to be sharing on my Patreon for this month of just one of the most incredible parkour videos I've ever seen. Like, it's insane that normal human beings are pulling this off.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. One other thing I wanted to mention that was very reminiscent of the books is there's a scene where he and Watson, Holmes and Watson, and I think they're with Numi Rapace at that point, where Sherlock had like gone off earlier in the day, and they're like, we don't know where he was, but then they were meeting up later. That happened in the books all the time, where like Sherlock would just go missing for several hours, and they're like, where was Sherlock? And it turns out like, oh yeah, he was in a disguise somewhere. He was sneaking around. He was talking to this guy. And in this case, he was snooping around Moriarty and getting his book or whatever he was doing. But that was a nice little touch and, call back to the original character.
Yeah, which I appreciate. I do feel like they were very good about all of the little setups that would then get called back to. I do feel like that was really well done for this.
Yeah. In general, I think this portrayal in these two movies of Sherlock is pretty good on the intellectual stuff, pretty good on some of the mannerisms. The one thing that they amped up in this version is like his fighting abilities, as
like more than the first one.
No, I mean compared to the books or compared to like other iterations of the character that we've seen, with the BBC series or other films or stuff like that. This one really ramped up his like fist fighting abilities. But I think that went along with just like this director's style and what he wanted to do with the character. So I'm cool with it.
It was definitely like a higher proportion of gunfights in this, which honestly always makes me less interested, just because like I find this very overpowered. I sometimes it might sound like it comes off like I don't like fight scenes, which is actually not true. I just get very bored with fight scenes because so many of them are kind of the same. I actually really enjoy the fight scenes in the series Ruby because they're really creative. They're actually really beautiful and have some very interesting weapons in there. Like, yes, some of them are guns, but like they do so many other things that are utilized in fighting the baddies. Yeah,
well, like when you've got a weapon that is OP, like a rifle or a machine gun, you have to find ways to like nerf them to make the fight interesting.
Well, that's actually why I like the little like slow-mo like explanation of what Sherlock is going to do when he is able to plan his fights, because I find that way more interesting than just like, your typical like punch him up, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now somebody's like knocked out or whatever.
Yeah, it gives like a reason for why someone won in the fight.
Yeah.
Not just, well, they punched each other for a while until one of them happened to knock the other out.
Yeah.
There was like this actual thought and a reason behind it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, anything else that you wanted to really talk about here?
I want to say the mistreatment and poor people who are like in serving roles does not end with Sherlock Holmes. Mycroft Holmes is also guilty of this because like poor Stanley. Oh, Stanley. Like he looks like he's already got one foot in the grave. That man needs a retirement
He's like
plan.
107 or something.
He is. And I love that Sherlock was like, you haven't aged a day.
No, he's aged all of the days.
Yeah. But no, that's pretty much all I had for this.
Well then, now it's time for us to rate this film. First, on how steampunk is it, Dana?
Mm-hmm.
On a scale of 1 to 5 steam engines, how steampunk is Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows? We gave the last one 5 out of 5.
We did.
So, what's this one? Any different?
Honestly, I think this one's only going to get, I want to say like 3.5, 4 from me.
Okay.
I'm going to say 3.5. I'm sorry. They had some fun, new, clever stuff, but there were just so many clever, interesting things in the first one that like that's the standard now for these Sherlock films. And I just feel like it didn't measure up. So I'm going to say 3.5.
Yeah, I concur. Yeah. Also, they didn't feature as many like gadgets and things. And it feels like they did start to move on to like the next phase of technology with like the motor carriage and things like that. So yeah, I can concur on that. 3.5. What about just how much did you enjoy this film on a scale of 1 to 5 gears? What was your enjoyment level for this movie?
So I think for the last one, I want to say it was like a 4 that I did. 4.5. Okay. For this one, I didn't like it as much. I mean, I had a good time, but I didn't have as good a time. So I'm just going to say 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah. My scale is 1 to 5 top hats. And I think I will give it 3.5 top hats. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, not as good as the first one. And definitely some weak spots. But the fun stuff happened in the beginning and at the end. I like the ending. Some of the banter between Sherlock and Watson was still there.
Oh, the banter is still really great, but there wasn't as much of it.
Not as much.
I really do hope that for the third one, assuming it makes it through pre-production and all of the stuff that a film has to go through to come into the world, I really do think that, I really hope that they bring some of that stuff back.
Well,
and the fact that Sherlock was dead for a while, so to speak, I do feel like they're starting, they kind of are resetting things.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I feel like they can kind of take that, oh no, the entire world is at stake kind of scariness down a little bit. But we'll see, of course.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, maybe we'll talk about it here.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
On a future episode.
Yeah.
And at the very least, we'll have some other movie to talk about next month. So join us then. If you want to recommend a film for us to watch, then you can do that in our Discord. The link to that is in the description of this podcast.
It's also on my website on the podcast page. There's a link there. You
can go to steampoweredmovies.com. There's a whole list of episodes and more information there. You can hit us up on Twitter at SteamPoweredPod, on Instagram and Threads at SteamPoweredMovies. We would love to chat with you and hear from you. Thank you again for listening. We will talk to you next time. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.